Well, welcome to session 3 of Ministering to Unsaintly Saints. I hope this is inspiring you so far, or at least providing you some practical things for working with those difficult behaviors in folks. By the way, again, I mentioned at the beginning of the course, that workshop, that this is not a new concept or a new teaching by any stretch. There's books like this out here. This is Coping with Difficult People. I have another one that's called Dealing with People You Can't Stand. We had a guy an author here in Seattle, who wrote a book, Putting Up With, and I can't say the word he used. But there's others too. I like some of these. How to Work with Just About Anyone by Lucy Gill. And here's Joe Gilliam, the guy who started the workshop some time ago, How to Handle Difficult People. There's even those books about, I can't think, there's a whole series, but here's one that says 201 Ways to Deal with Difficult People. Hopefully we don't need that many ways. Coping with Difficult People. Here's my favorite title, Since Strangling Isn't an Option. How to Get Along with Difficult People. So, there's a lot of good resources out there. If you Google Get Along with Difficult People or that kind of title, you'll find tons of, several anyway, of things written on the subject. Well, let's get into our session 3 here. And you should have the sheets in front of you for this session. And it's titled at the top, Session 3, Some General Countering Skills Neutralize. If you remember some of the old sci-fi movies, yeah, you could be neutralized with a ray gun in some of those films, or disintegrated or something like that. Well, we don't want to disintegrate them. We may feel like that, but we don't want to disintegrate people with difficult behaviors, but we do want to neutralize the direction those difficult behaviors tend to take our communication. So here's some general principles, and you see you got some blanks coming up, top of the page and the bottom. And so under some general principles, it says understand the origin, is what you want to put in there. Understand the origin of difficult behaviors. In other words, where they come from, the root causes. You remember we said behind every fault there is a need, or more so an unmet need. And that's what causes people to act out these difficult behaviors. So what are basic human needs? What are these needs that we often are acting out from? Well, on your page there it says basic human needs we are all innately, meaning built in, very concerned about. These are things we are even unconsciously concerned about. We don't even think about it all the time. Number one, we all like to feel safe, secure, out of danger, not threatened, not fearful. No one likes to feel fearful. So feel fearful. Security is the first one. 2, this isn't prioritized by any means. The second one listed there is we want to love and feel loved. As Christians, we know we were made for God's love, to receive it and respond to it. The 2 great commandments, to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love each other. So we are made for that capacity, to love and be loved. When that need is not met, it has amazing detrimental effects on us. And by love we mean feeling accepted, feeling like we belong, feeling valued, respected, appreciated, needed. And the third thing is we seem to have a built-in need for purpose, a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to be. We don't seem content to just exist. We're constantly pushing the envelope to understand more and create more. We have this tremendous sense of purpose, to feel a sense of self-worth. At least that comes from having a sense of purpose. It can, anyway. A sense of competency, ability to do things, accomplish things, succeed, create. Accomplishment is the next word, and needed, meaning part of a plan, part of something that's happening, something that's moving in a direction. As Christians, we know God has a plan for us individually, but he also has been moving over the ages since the creation of human beings, he's been moving towards a goal, which we read in Revelations 21 and 22, where we're finally God's people, those who responded to his call to let him be their God and want to be their people, are surrounded around the throne, and it's finally accomplished. So we have a great need for purpose. And of course, you can see how God in Christ meets every one of those needs, generally speaking. He can give us a feeling of security and safety in a very dangerous world that this is, because of evil and sin. And, no one's content with their own property, or no one's content with their own country. Always got to be looking at the other guy's stuff and how am I going to get it from him, and all these sort of things. Wars and rumors of wars. And there's a tremendous need for us to feel secure. And God provides that. But he provides it from the inside out in a spiritual way. As I speak and do this session, there was just a news report today that the fellow of North Korea there, Kim, has made it an announcement that he's going to kill so many missionaries there in North Korea. So it's hard to feel safe in a world where sin abounds and Satan is loose and all those sort of things, of course. And then God helps us feel loved. He accepts us unconditionally. And when you enter into that personal spiritual union and fellowship and relationship with him, I remember when I came to Christ at Kent State University, yes, Kent State University of all places, in 1972. That was the thing that really marked my conversion moment. When I read the Gospel of Matthew and I came to Christ, I knelt down beside my little metal bunk bed there in that dormitory room. And the thing that really, when I asked Jesus to come into my life, actually I asked him to show me that he was resurrected like I just read in Matthew. I realized he died for my sins. I had this tremendous sense of feeling loved like I had never felt from any human being before. I just felt like his invisible arms were around me in that little dormitory room, and so accepted, given worth and value, and just loved. So God's the source of that too, and purpose. Well, if God didn't have a plan that he was doing over these ages and centuries and time, none of us would have any purpose. But when we plug into his purpose, his grander purpose, and what he's trying to accomplish and do, we each find our own individual purpose as part of that plan. So those are three basic human needs that drive us all the time. Whether we're thinking on those things or not, they're always there. They're kind of built into the way he created us and made us in his image. So look in the bold print here underneath. When a person feels these needs somehow are not being met, they will naturally protect themselves or try to meet that need or protect that unmet need somehow out of their own and they'll filter it through their personality type, their S, E, L, or F. Now over time, that way of acting, responding, speaking becomes a habit, even if it has some undesirable consequences. It seems to address that unmet need, sort of. And that person will continue to use that difficult behavior, now difficult to others, not necessarily, doesn't feel difficult to him, as long as it continues to work for him, or until he learns a better, healthier way to meet his unmet need. Let me give you an example here on the page there. Did you know that often a person who comes on strong and seems exceedingly sure of themselves, maybe even a bit cocky and intimidating, is actually usually very unsure of himself? He's learned how to put on an appearance of confidence, more like overconfidence and that legend in your own mind egotism, to compensate for how he really feels about himself. And then in parentheses there, for an example, it says beauty queens. I watched a program with my wife, it's been some years ago, about people in these beauty contests and the modeling industry. You know, a high percentage of those guys and gals that get into that business, here everyone's taking pictures of them. They're on the front of magazines and everything else. and how beautiful they are in that. And when they're interviewed, the interviews with these folks was just astonishing. How many of them had very low self-esteem, a very low view of themselves. So sometimes we try to overcompensate for that which we feel a lacking or an unmet need. So when a person is being difficult, what is really happening within them? A need is not being met according to their perception. And that creates stress, anxiety about the situation, their needs not being met. So if that's true, look at the bottom here. It says, so how can you relieve, when you notice a person's in stress and stressing, how can you relieve someone's stress? MHN, meet his or her need. Meet their need. When you're stressing over something like money, for example, and you're stressing, I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill, and suddenly the mail comes and there's an unexpected check that covers the bill and maybe a few other things, or helps out anyway. What happens immediately when you open that envelope and see that money you need? The stress quits. The need has been met. The stress goes away. So if someone's stressing and causing difficult behavior in a situation, if I can, by the grace of God, with the Holy Spirit's help, somehow get past the fault and address the need behind it, the unmet need, and relieve that person's stressing, suddenly the situation gets calmer and opens the window, the door to really, well, if it doesn't open a door, they say there's always a window that'll open. But it opens the opportunity to actually do real ministry and get to the real need. If you flip the page, please. At the top of the page, it says, what is stress? Stress. It's a physical expression of a psychological need that's not being met. So you see someone exhibiting outward manifestation of stress, certain physical expressions of it that we recognize, hey, that person's stressing, man, that person's tense. That's because we know behind it, they're really struggling. They're feeling vulnerable somehow. They're feeling like a need is not being met. Now, they may not have a healthy view of how that need can really be met. But don't forget, they've been doing this for years. And this is just the way they're accustomed to trying to cope or meet that unmet need. So, to some extent or degree, when a person is stressing, they're feeling threatened. So here's the thing. If I can alleviate the threat, I can meet the need, I can disarm the stress and possibly remove the cause for this difficult behavior. Alleviate the threat, meet the need, disarm the stress. Then we can maybe get somewhere. How do I do that? Well, let's look at some countering skills here that are listed. And I'll fill in the blanks for you as we go. Number one, we come back to that main great principle. Remind yourself as soon as a situation starts to happen that behind every is a, yeah, you're getting it, behind every fault, difficult behavior, there is a need. Make it your motto. Think need. Be need-oriented when it comes to relating to people. What is happening with this guy that's causing him to behave this way? That's the question to ask. I think, too, this is where spiritual discernment grows in us, too. The Holy Spirit helps us with this, and the more I'm conscious of doing this, the more He'll help me discern. Just like we see in the Gospels, Jesus was often able to discern what was in their hearts. I don't think that was because the Father was giving him special equipment that you and I can't have access to. I don't believe that at all. But anyway, that's my conjecture there. Number two, make listening, is what goes in that blank there. Make listening your number one priority. Listen, and then listen, and then listen again. Hear him out. No matter how wrong, no matter how obnoxious they're expressing themselves, people often just need to be heard. One of the needs we have in feeling loved and appreciated and valued is that people hear me. You know, there's nothing worse than saying something and feeling like everyone's ignoring you. You know, oh, yeah, sure. You know, Ask my wife; she can tell you about that one. I do that unconsciously sometimes. It's not a good thing, and she's helping me with that, calling to my attention when I'm really my mind is somewhere else and I'm not really listening. Uh, as ministers, we learn to multitask, and sometimes that's to our disadvantage because we don't really listen to people on the phone while we're trying to do two things at once, that sort of thing. I try to catch myself in that because it's real easy to do, especially if you're driven and, get her done, get her done, get her done type person. So sometimes they just need to get stuff off their chest. So sometimes waiting is a great way of listening. Just let them get it off their chest. Will that really hurt you to let them blow their steam? Probably not. I think we have to get past that. Your behavior bothers me. See, that's again where I have to look at my tendencies and say, why does that behavior bother me? So what? He blows some steam. I like to do that at times without interruption and get it out. That's okay. No, there's righteous ways to do that. Jesus got angry, turned over the tables of the tax collectors and the people charging for doves and sacrifices in the temple because it was wrong. I don't think he just calmly did and said, "Excuse me, can I turn your table over, please?" He was mad. Now, he didn't curse and swear at everybody, but, he definitely was angry and acted out of that. So anyway, make listening your number one priority. I'm actually reading some books presently on what it means to be a good listener, how to really do that, how to focus and concentrate and hear between the lines kind of deal. Well, not just what they're actually saying, but again, here's where we try to look beyond the fault and hear the need. What is the need here? Am I really hearing this person? Number 3 is respond calmly. There's that scripture again. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh response just creates more anger. You know how that is. Conflict is two people getting angry, and it's like a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering more and more snow, just getting bigger and bigger and out of control. To just deliberately think of your tone of voice and slow down your speech and just say something really calmly with a calm tone. It is amazing how that can. I had an occasion once. I was training a young man for ministry. He was a Native American brother, wonderful Christian guy. I had a tremendous sense of respect for him. He wanted to be a pastor, and I was training him to actually replace myself in the Native church that we had here in Seattle. And one day, we did this every week. I was training him with a theology by extension course through our denomination to train pastors, Native pastors, without having to send them off to Bible college and that sort of thing. So I was training them, and this day, I don't know what was going on before I arrived, but we started into our usual studies. And just, I don't know, about 10 minutes into it, he just looked at me across the table, and he said, "What makes you think I can do this?" I was stumped by the question, and there was some irritation in his voice. "What makes you think I can do this?" I thought, well, only you can answer that. But anyway, his agitation kind of increased, and I made a comment about his brother, not a negative comment, but I looked around because his brother, he had a one-bedroom studio, and his alcoholic brother, there's a whole thing that goes down in alcoholic families. Lewis hadn't drank for many years, but he was letting his brother stay there, and it was just creating all kinds of stress for my brother. He knew it, and I knew it too. And I just I made the comment. I said, "Is your brother still staying here?" And I said it just like that, and he just exploded. I mean, he said, and he picked up the books we were using, and he started throwing them, and they were whizzing past my head, just missing me. And I started for the door, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead, leave like everybody else." Well, still kind of gets me to this day. I went and sat back down, and I spoke calmly. I said, "Lewis, are you okay?" What's going on? And I dropped my voice, took all the excitement out of it, and deliberately, because I was feeling the adrenaline. I didn't know if what was coming at me next. But by responding calmly, we actually spent the next couple hours together praying and talking about his family and some things going on within him. If I would have walked out or reacted in anger, I don't know. We may have not met again for a long time, if at all. If you can refrain from responding in kind, letting yourself get stressed too, and purposely respond in a calm, unexcited tone, it can go a long way to possibly diffuse the other person. Persist, and you don't just do it once and then lose your cool. You persist in speaking calmly. Hey, that's okay. Go ahead and get everything out. And but could we talk about this? Would that be all right with you? Just purposely speaking calmly. I've had people do that with me in the past, and it's amazing the effect it has on me, losing that excited feeling and emotions. So respond calmly. That takes some training. You got to practice that one, but you can do it. Anyone can learn to do that. You don't have to be a certain personality type. You don't have to be passive to speak calmly. You can learn how to do that. Number 4, 2 blanks here. Don't argue or snipe. S-N-I-P-E. Snipe. Like a sniper with a long-range rifle. Don't argue or snipe. Arguing is forthright, resisting, debating someone's statement, or, it's reacting, arguing with them. Sniping is similar to arguing, only it's using sarcasm. Instead of an angry tone, it uses sarcasm to do the same thing that arguing does, to get at them, to get them back. Notice what it says here. Don't add fuel to the fire by being defensive or aggravate the difficult person by sniping, taking little pot shots at him half jokingly, or coming back with little sarcastic remarks about what he said, etc. Never ever embarrass the difficult person. The war will be on, or you'll have lost any possible relationship or helpful situation with the person. It's when we embarrass someone with sarcasm, and this is another area I have to really watch, because I can do this. I can be a sniper and use little comments to, instead of being intimidating. I'm not an intimidating person. You can almost count on 2 hands a few times how many times I've lost my cool as an adult and yet really yelled at my partner or yelled at someone. I've never yelled at maybe once, ever yelled at someone in the church, and really lost it. It's very rare for me to do that. It takes a lot for me to explode like that, even though I threw temper tantrums as a kid. But that changed along the way somehow. But don't embarrass the person, because what that says to them is you're more interested in saving face than helping them. You're more interested in coming out the winner and looking better than them than actually caring about meeting their real need. So you got to watch that one. Don't argue, but don't snipe at them. Number 5 is lose, L-O-S-E, lose to win. You've heard that expression before. Sometimes you got to lose to win. And what that means is, in the immediate situation, sometimes it's worth taking what seems to be a loss in order to win the war. You can lose a battle sometimes. Sometimes it's purposely done. Military strategists sometimes deliberately plan battles that they know they won't win, but will pull the enemy in a direction they want the enemy to go, physically, geographically, in order to lay them more open to the next battle. But anyway, it says, chances are he expects or hopes your defenses will go up and you'll retaliate, and then he's won. In his mind, that's what he's wanted. Like my friend Pat, the guy stepping on his foot and nudging him. He just wanted Pat to lose it so he could say, see, he's not that great a guy after all. Sometimes that's what they want. They want you to lose it. They want you to react in a non-Christian negative way, because then he's got you. Oh, look at your pastor now. Look at him. Give him the unexpected. Agree with him so he'll calm down just to stop the attack. Boy, you're right. To a degree, you're right, brother. I see it. Or maybe even wait until the next time, a later time, to try and discuss the problem again. We don't have to solve things. This is a big one, too. This is a principle to learn. The principle about waiting on God. I think of Joseph going through everything he went through before God put him in the place second to Pharaoh over Egypt. And how many people failed him along the way, and yet he continued to trust God and just stay where he was, work hard, trusting God. The baker forgot him, left him in the dungeon and didn't do what he said he would do for him, and so on. But Joseph just, I lost that battle, but I'm trusting God to win the war. So sometimes you lose to win, and wait for another time. We don't have to fix everything right away. That's another area I struggle with sometimes. I want this fixed now. Sometimes it's better to wait till later when emotions have calmed down and we're all thinking more clear-headed and can act like adults. Sometimes you strategize to lose the present battle for a more favorable positioning to win the war. Flip the page, please. The next one, at the top of the page, it says, check your BL, body language. Be careful your body isn't saying what you wish you were saying. That's kind of easy to do too, huh? Yeah, sure, I agree with you. Yeah, sure. See, sometimes my body language or tone can actually say the opposite of what I'm saying, and they know that. Let me give you some examples underneath here. For example, with someone very intimidating, very pushy, that kind of thing. Did you know if you lean in, put your arm on the desk and lean in like this, you know what that says to them? It's challenging them. Okay, it's on, buddy. We'll see who wins this. Leaning towards someone can signify that you're challenging them. Leaning back, on the other hand, can show that you're surrendering, you're retreating. Okay. Yeah. And we're going to get to talk about that one more because it really fits with intimidating people, S-types, when they're really going at it. But you have to watch your body language. What is my body language saying? Try to remain pleasant. A pleasant smile, not a smirk. There's a difference. Practice that in front of a mirror sometime. A smirk is a smile, but it's one that says, yeah, right, uh-huh. Or exaggerating your expressions. That can say a lot, too. Rolling your eyes. I used to do that a lot. I think my dad sometimes wanted to knock my eyes right out of my head for doing that. That was as far as I dared to go with my dad. Anyway, avoid a defensive posture. These things don't always mean that, but you have to think about how they could be interpreted. This is a defensive posture, when you fold your arms across your chest and lean back. You don't have to say a word. That's pretty easy to interpret. Even if you don't mean it, you got to think about, what is my body language saying at the moment here? Or arms up, like this. That says, I don't care. I'm relaxed. Whatever. It can. Or a clenched fist when someone's talking to you. Hopefully we don't have those kind of things, but I have to think about my body language. Eye contact. Not looking away or down when someone's speaking to me. But not staring either, giving them the evil eye. What we're just trying to say here is check your body language. Think about how you might appear to them. Is your body language saying something you're not really saying? Now, let's look at the next section, positive verbal responses. And we got some blanks here. This is the last page of this session. Let's see if you can get some of these. Guess at them at least. Sometimes the definition following gives them away. Here's some positive verbal responses in communication that can help avoid difficult behavior or deal with it. A is avoid, don't misinterpret these initials, avoid B blank S, pointing out their faults in retaliation. You know what that's called? Blame shifting. Avoid blame shifting. Blame shifting is usually used to defend ourselves, to save face, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, well you should talk. You did this and did that. Well, I don't see why you're getting on my case. Joe over there did that. Blame shifting is trying to make myself look better or seem right by comparing myself to others. It just never really works. It puts the other person on the defensive then too. Because you're defending yourself, they're going to do the same. Avoid blame shifting. Letter B, focus the attack on the P, not the P. 2 blanks there, if possible. You got a guess on that one? Focus the attack on the problem, the issue, not the person. This is where we often conflicts take off for the worst. When a person feels they're being attacked, their personhood is being questioned, attacked, devalued. That's when we get defensive. If we can keep the subject about ideas and focus on problems or issues or the ideas, and there's ways to word things so that you do that, it's what we say, well, you're wrong about that. Well, another way to say that is, I don't know about this idea. I'm trying to keep it objective rather than subjective. That's really important. If you go the subjective route, a person's going to be offended and take it as a personal offense. You don't like me, let's talk about the ideas here. That's what we're working on. What's the ideas? What's the issue, the problem? Right? Underneath that it says, this is a neat little thing to keep in mind in dialogue, don't use the word but, B-U-T, use and, A-N-D. Don't use but, use and. You know how you can be in a conversation and say, well, yeah, Joe, I suppose, but, as soon as you say the word but, what you've told that person is, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong. You're flat out wrong. But shows contrary. It shows contradiction, excuse me. This is this, but, no. So, when you use and, it says to a person, I hear you, I agree with you, and I'd like to add this thought to it. So, but always sounds like you're saying they're wrong. And maybe they are, okay? But it puts them on the defensive right away. So if I avoid using the word but, I'm not trying to put this person on the defensive if I want to get anywhere in communication here towards my goal. Using and acknowledges their idea or statement and then adds your own ideas or statements. It sounds less contrasting or conflictive. I hear what you're saying, Harry, and along with that, I think, okay, makes a big difference. But if you say, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Harry, but, right away I'd let them know, you don't know what you're talking about. Your idea is wrong. Maybe you're wrong, Harry. And again, maybe they are, but my goal here is to get past the fault and get to the need. Letter C, be complimentary. Make compliment. Be complimentary. Find and compliment any good aspect of what they've said or done. They're good. Wow, good intentions there. Even though they have bad delivery. At the very least, say, thank you for sharing. And of course, mean it. So you try to compliment on some aspect or some part of what they said or how they're acting or something. If someone's flying off the handle and yelling and screaming about how things are going on at church or a certain thing going on, you can make true compliments and say, wow, you really care about this. That's a good compliment. Instead of coming against the way they're expressing it, I say, wow, that's you're very observant. That's a good compliment, but it's a true compliment. They are very observant. Maybe you didn't even notice the problem or notice that could be an issue. So we try to be complimentary and truly complimentary, not flattery, complimentary. Compliment some good in what they said or did. Sometimes it's hard to find that, but you can. Even if it's just to say, thanks for bringing that up. Letter D. This is a technique they use in counseling, and that is always very helpful. RB. Reflect back in a question the difficult person's obvious feelings and invite them to explain their reasons for feeling the way they do. You say, wow, you're really upset, aren't you? Dang right I am, so on. But by acknowledging their emotions, by reflecting it back to them, what I'm seeing, it gives them the opportunity to elaborate on that or correct me if I'm misinterpreting. So I could say to that person, this really seems to be bothering you. Well, they may say, well, oh, no, that's not what no. Or they may say, well, yes, it is. But see, that gives you the opportunity to say, well, why is this bothering you? Frank, you really seem upset. Could you tell me why this is bothering you so much? I had to correct that there. Hopefully your copy's corrected. Could you tell me why is this bothering you so much? My English there. Could you tell me why this is bothering you so much? See, I'm reflecting back what I'm seeing, putting it in words. Sometimes we get into trouble because we don't verbalize, we don't articulate what we're seeing emotionally. And that's a good practice. It calls a person to acknowledge what they're feeling and talk about it. And that always usually often disarms or brings it down a notch anyway in conflictive conversations. Letter E. Acknowledge what you think is their need. Sometimes I have to kind of guess at maybe what's going on with this guy. And there's a humble way to do that. Even to ask a question is, are you feeling neglected here? Or, there's ways to do it that you don't make the guy feel bad or look bad. Acknowledge what you think is their need behind their fault, the difficult behavior, and focus on acknowledging their intentions is what goes there. Focus on acknowledging their intentions. We can always say to people, wow, I see what you're intending. I see what you just want this to go well, huh? You're just really worried about the outcome of this ministry or what this person's doing. I'm acknowledging their intentions. I'm trying to guess at what's really bothering them behind the difficult behavior they're exhibiting. If I do that, they're more likely to want to hear your ideas afterward. Here's an example. You obviously really care about this issue and us doing our best. So here's a guy yelling, saying, this isn't being done right. This shouldn't have happened this way. This should have been. And you say, wow, you obviously care about this issue. See, I see their intention, their motivation. They do care. They're not expressing it too well. They're angry, but by acknowledging their intention and guessing at their goal, I'm guessing it's because you're concerned about this being done the best it can be done. Well, yeah, that's, so it calms things down. It gets us to talk about the real issues instead of just reacting to expressed emotions. Or the second example, I know you're trying to help me do my job better, Chris, and I thank you for that. Please explain how you feel I can go about doing this better. Isn't that a great way to, someone's criticizing you, so you could just get defensive and the fight's on. You're defending yourself. Well, that's your view. I don't think you're, Instead of saying, well, that's really good of it. You really want to help me, don't you? Can you tell me how would you do this, or how do you think I should do this? At least I'm opening up the opportunity. It doesn't mean I agree with them. See, that's our problem. Our ego always wants to defend itself. You don't lose face in the long run by doing things in a meek and humble way. Because in the end, the truth will come out about our motivations, mine and the other person's. You never lose anything. You, this is where we trust God, and come to a maturity where we can trust God to show the true intentions and motivations of our own hearts, even when we're being falsely accused or maligned. You see that with the Apostle Paul before those who were his accusers. You see that in Jesus dealing with Pilate, his earthly judge. Instead of rising to their defense, like it says in Isaiah 53, he didn't speak up. He didn't rise to his defense because Jesus knew, the Father knew his heart, his motivations were pure and right. So he didn't have to defend himself. Anyway, okay. So, I'm sorry, we're here, letter F. Since most difficult behavior is negative and in the form of complaining, after acknowledging their intentions and any positive aspect of their complaint, direct the focus to solutions by asking what they think needs to be done to remedy the problem or situation. I try to focus on solving issues, not rehashing them over and over and over in complaints. If you react to a complaint by complaining about their complaining, again, it's that proverbial snowball rolling down the hill, just getting bigger and bigger. I want to point point the two of us towards solving the issue, the real underlying root problem. And then it says, move the dialogue from complaining to solving. Move the dialogue from complaining to solving. Sometimes I just say, I hear you. And they're going on, and I say, I put my hand on his arm if it's appropriate or whatever, and I say, I hear you. I hear you. You've got some legitimacy there to your complaint. I hear what you're saying. What do you think we need to do to solve this? Even something as simple as that can get things moving away from further agitation and growth and growing that snowball. Letter G, the last one for our session here today. The word that goes in the blank is delay. D-E-L-A-Y. Delay. Put things off. Things don't always, usually, have to be settled right now. Now, given there are some situations where you're in, where the conflict that's going on, the difficult behavior, is something that has to happen right then. But often, things don't have to be solved right at that very second. There's great benefit and profit in going to the water cooler and getting cooled down for a while. There's great profit in sometimes saying, can we take a break, guys? I'm feeling stirred up, and I don't want to say anything foolish. I don't want to speak out of my emotions. Let's take 5. Let's take 10. Let's come back together at 10 after, okay? Would that be all right with you guys? Give people a chance to cool down if indeed it doesn't have to be fixed right at the very second it's occurring. Don't be afraid to suggest a break and to sit down later to discuss the issue. So there you go. A lot of stuff there, huh? A lot of things to think about. That's what I like about teaching this workshop, is I get to review this stuff. I don't know how many times I've taught it, but quite a few. And every time I come away with seeing some things, at least on a deeper level, and trying to ingrain them more, keep them up here, than I have before. Now, that being session, what was that? That was session 3. So, session 4 is also for this week. And I'm going back to my outline here, the table of contents. And session 4 this week, your second session for the week, we'll start into the 10 typical types of difficult behaviors, what, why, and how. And this is where the rubber meets the road, and we get to talk about specific ways of addressing specific types of behavior in order to neutralize it, get past it, and hopefully address the need. And we'll look at the bowl, the fox, and the time bomb next time. And those worksheets will be coming to you. There's not really often blanks to fill in on these. You can look at them ahead of time, and we'll go through them. I wouldn't saturate myself, otherwise I'll just bore you to death rehashing things perhaps you've already thought through. But so be ready, and we'll start in with those first three in our next session. Thank you.